You're now listening to the Fullerton Unfiltered podcast. Straightforward, no nonsense business advice. Completely unfiltered. Grow your business. Grow your life. Now, here's your host, Brian Fullerton.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Well, welcome to another episode of the Fullerton Unfiltered podcast, guys. It is your host, Brian Fullerton, here in studio, hanging out with you guys for just a few minutes here today. We're going to do a quick little solo episode, and the title of this talk, this little conversation I want to have with you guys is, who's paying for this? Who is paying for this? Well, let's set this talk up a little bit really quick. When I first met Mike Bedell, well, let me actually rephrase it like this. A lot of folks know that my friend Mike Bedell has coached me in business, behind the scenes, and he's given me a lot of thought process over the years. And it's always funny because Mike and I always try to look back on it and say, Mike, what exactly did you teach Brian that changed his business or changed his career or changed his trajectory? And Mike played a very critical, pivotal role in me learning how to grow and develop my lawn and landscape company and just actually my business mindset in general. And it's funny because we get asked that question a lot, both of Mike and I do behind the scenes. And the question that is always asked is, what did you exactly teach Brian? What did you exactly teach Brian? Or what did you say to Brian when you stumbled upon him and he bumped into you over at that Weingart's open house steak fry about 4 years ago? And that's a really good question. And, Mike and I always talk, it wasn't any one specific thing that was the massive game changer. It was a bunch of little things. It was a handful of, in the right, context here, off the cuff comments that Mike would make, and things that make you go, is what I like to say. Things that make you go, So Mike would say certain things, and I'd go, well, Mike, what do you mean by that? Or on the caveat is, I would say certain things, and Mike goes, hey, Brian, what do you mean by that? And I would explain my thought process, and he goes, okay. And, maybe 1 out of 10 times I would teach Mike something. But the reality is that 9 out of 10 times when I would say an off-the-cuff comment like that, as I tried to grow my businesses, Mike would slow me down, and he would say, well, what do you exactly mean by that? And I would explain, and he'd go, well, have you ever thought about it this way? Or have you ever approached it this way? Or have you ever thought about this? All really, really fair questions. Well, the one thing that I can look back on that Mike did say, and this was one that I wrote down. I've been thinking about this little conversation I want to have with you guys for just a little while now. One of the things that Mike used to say all the time was, so who's paying for that? Who is paying for that? Who's paying for this? Who's paying for that? And some of you guys are going to really enjoy this talk, and it's going to maybe change your mind, your paradigm about how you look at business, how you look at success, how you look at equipment, how you look at who's paying for the things that we're all trying to purchase and buy. And it was a really, really insightful conversation that Mike alluded to. And I wrote down a couple notes that I remember way back when, about 4 years ago, that Mike alluded to. And it just kind of changed the way I look at my business with how I try to grow it. So let's do this. We're going to take a quick second. We're going to hear from Marty, Mr. Producer, who's just been doing a bang-up job on the podcast. Couldn't do it without him. Actually, he has a new Instagram handle, which is Mr. Producer, which is hilarious and awesome. He's got the golden voice, maybe the face for radio. We're not sure just yet. I haven't got to meet Marty in person. I'm sure I will one time when I'm down in Atlanta. But Marty has been taking over the show here for about the last 4 or 5 episodes. He's been doing a great job. It takes a lot of production value on the back end. And he's really been able to step in to the Fullerton Unfiltered podcast and help us take things to the next level. And I think that's one of the reasons the podcast has been growing so well lately. So let's do this. We're going to hear from the show sponsors. We're going to hear from Marty really quick. And then before you know it, we're going to jump right back into this podcast about talking about who's paying for this? Who's paying for this?
Hey, Brian, I think I can definitely answer your question. When you've been married as long as I have, I can tell you who's paying for this. I am. And I am already paying the price for being on Instagram. By the way, my complete handle is MR Producer USA. So make sure to put that USA on the end there when you're searching for MR Producer. I got to tell you, my wife has been verbally wearing me out for getting on Instagram. Keeps saying something about me just wanting to see people twerking, and I don't even know what that is. But I'm certainly paying the price with Martha, and I think she heard me. So I tell you what, let me duck out real quick.
New program alert. The How to Get New Lawn Care Customers training program is now available. If you guys have ever struggled at acquiring new customers or are looking to grow your lawn care business, then this new program might just be for you. Looking to learn the best tactics to develop a successful postcard marketing campaign? We got you covered. Have you ever wondered how to use social media to exponentially grow your business and dominate the competition? We got that too. Whether you're just getting started in business or you're a seasoned vet, there's something for everyone in this new program available now, exclusively at L'EntrepreneurAcademy.com.
Hey guys, before we jump back into the show, maybe you've got a question about an equipment purchase or you're trying to understand and grow your branding and social media presence. Could be you're stuck with a hang up of how to get some new customers to get the business moving and growing. Brian would love to get into the nitty-gritty with a one-on-one coaching call, providing solutions to the problems you're facing. If you'd like to sign up for one of those, L'EntrepreneurAcademy.com is the place to do so. L'EntrepreneurAcademy.com. And once again, here's Brian Fullerton.
All right, well, good deal. Well, guys, let's just jump right back into it. Again, always appreciate Marty chiming in to produce the show. Well, let's talk about something that I did learn from Mike Bedell. Back in the day, you guys got to remember context. When I met Bedell, I was in the process of re-upping a bunch of my equipment. I needed to pay for trucks. I needed to buy, I was just in the process of buying new mowers and aerators. There was a lot of things that I was looking to grow and upgrade with and for and to, right? And back in the day, I was like, man, we've got this much cash flow coming in. We've got this, and this going on. And let me explain to you the words I was saying. I can't wait to buy this. I can't wait to get that. Man, one day I'll be able to afford this. Wouldn't it be nice if I owned that? Now, the difference of mindset that we're going to leave off at the end of this podcast, hopefully a little paradigm shift, is why are you trying to buy certain things? Why are you trying to personally guarantee certain things? Why are you trying to figure out how to afford things? Because if we look at a business, right? And I know a lot of this thought process to a lot of you guys that have been on the guests on the podcast. The dominating thought process should be, how is my business going to afford this? How is my business going to buy this? How is my company going to afford a certain thing? And if you really look at it, this might be a little bit different way of looking at it. And this is just my personal opinion. This is just my little interpretation of what Bedell was teaching me. But really it was, how are your customers going to buy this for you? How are your customers going to buy this for you? And Bedell, hopefully, if you're listening it in, you're smiling, you're grinning big, because I think it was a really good life lesson you taught me way back when. And so one of my most exciting things to do is to amplify Bedell's voice. He's a great guy out there, pillar in the community. He's still one of the best kept secrets, stepfreelandscaper.com. But one of the things Bedell taught me was, what do you mean you're personally buying it? He goes, the business, and I'm not saying like as a tax, deduction or a tax strategy. I mean, like legit, how is your business going to start affording things? I thought it was a really insightful way to recalibrate how my brain was working with, I can't wait, versus I can't wait for the business. The business is going to buy this. The business is going to grow. The business is going to do that. Well, if you guys think about it, if you buy something, you're getting a paycheck from your company or a distribution, or you're doing an owner's draw. You're in some way, shape, or form, if you're buying something, you're buying it with your money. Now, there's a whole conversation. We can go 5 levels deep on this about you're buying it, post-tax dollars, right? After taxes are taken out of that paycheck. The next conversation is, well, the business is buying it, right? Well, the business is going to buy the mower. The business is going to buy the truck. But what is the business using for funds? Where does those funds come from? Well, of course, they come from us doing work, and that's really coming from the customer. So long story short, here's what I wanted to propose. How are your customers buying your stuff? This is a fun conversation. And in fact, I could go really, really extreme, because this is how I've looked at my life the last 4 years, and I'll give a couple practical examples. But it's, how am I going to make my customers pay for this? Okay, this is the paradigm that I just wanted to present to you guys. I'm not going to go super, super deep on this one. Like, last time I was saying something like this. We're not going to go super deep. It was an hour-long podcast, and my boy from Paul Jameson from the Green Industry Podcast was giving me crap. He said, "Man, Brian said it's going to be 15, 20-minute podcast. It ends up being an hour." And he's laughing. And he's like shooting me DMs. He goes, "Nice, short and sweet podcast, bro." And he's like, talking trash. And that's what Paul does. Paul's a butt kicker behind the scenes. But then he also, by the way, a little side note, something got to clear up. Paul was like loving my studio, but then he kept making fun of it, because if you guys can hear this, there's a little bit of an echo because I got this hard like wood table. It's a Craftsman table, and Paul Paul's animated, right? So he gets all all fired up, and he starts punching his hand. He's like, "We're crushing the debt. We're crushing the debt. We're crushing the debt." And I'm like, Paul, they can hear those noises, bro. And Paul's like used to these $1 million sound studios, down in Atlanta. I'm like, no, dude, like my whole studio's put together with Gorilla Glue and, pink and shares and popsicle sticks, little stems. So, but all the guests, we're all animated business owners, right? Half of us are Italian and Polish, I feel. And so we're all banging the table. We're all like drinking our coffee and setting it down. And Paul's like, stop. Don't bang the table. So anyway, look, the studio is it's makeshift studio. Okay. We're not Joe Rogan here with that kind of baller budget. But to go full circle, to go back to what Paul said, we're going to keep it short. What Bedell helped me understand was how am I going to get my customers to pay for what I want to do? Okay, so let's take a really practical example. Let's take a new lawnmower. It's $10,000, and a lot of you guys, let me ask you this: evaluate what you've been saying the last day, week, month, year. Evaluate the next person you bump into that's also a lawn bro who hasn't listened to this episode, and say, "Hey man, when are you going to get the next piece of equipment?" And I want you to pause and listen to what they say, because they're going to say, "I can't wait to buy the next XYZ." Now, I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm not saying they're right. But if we can change this paradigm just 1 degree, 1%, just one little notch over, you'll start to realize by the end of this little conversation here what we're really trying to do. If you ask somebody, "Hey, what's the next mower you're going to buy?" And they go, "Man, I can't wait to buy the X-Mark Laser Z. I can't wait to buy the Right Standard ZK. Me. Like they're buying it. Now, I know they mean the business, but in the reality of it, they're still thinking them personally. Look, long story short, when I was sitting down with Bedell, and one of the things that Bedell said to me is, "Who's paying for this?" We sat down over Black Rock, a little steak on a stone place, and we were talking snow plowing. And when I was talking to Bedell and I had like 20 questions on my phone, nowadays you have a coaching call. A lot of you guys take advantage of the coaching calls with myself, which is super fun. But basically I was doing like coaching with Bedell, and he didn't charge me. I just kept, as long as he was talking, I was feeding him steak, and vice versa. As long as I kept feeding him steak is probably the better way to say it. Bedell was still talking. So it was a really, really fun opportunity there, because a couple $100 dinners later have paid me tens of thousands of dollars in profit and revenue with snow plowing, for example, and even my traditional lawn and landscape side of the business. But when I was sitting down with Bedell talking to him about, I want to buy this truck and I want to get this truck, it's going to be sweet, it's going to be awesome. And I kept saying, "I can't wait to buy it. I can't wait to get it." And he goes, "Well, how are you going to make your customers pay for it?" And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. He goes, "Well, you're not buying the truck. The business is buying the truck, but the business pays for it from the profit you make from your customers. So in reality, the customers are buying the truck. What do your pricing tiers look like? What does your contracts look like? How are you going to guarantee you're going to get paid from the snow plowing work that you're doing?" Little plug there for the debt-free landscaper snowplow contract. By the way, I think Brian's 10 Dove saved 10% on Bedell's website, right? That's where we get all of our snow contracts. And when I was thinking about what he said, I said, "Bedell, I've never really looked at it." He goes, "Well, you're not buying the truck. Your business is buying the truck. And your customers are paying for the business. The customers are paying for it. So how are you going to get your customers to pay for it?" And I said, "Well, I don't know." I said, "I have snow contracts." Back then, they're like, $197, $249 for an annual seasonal plow contract for a residential driveway. Nowadays, they're $399, right? Whatever. You guys know I had to raise my prices. That was one of my things that I had to work on transparently for the last 3 or 4 years. But Bedell said, "Well, let's look at your numbers. Let's look at your costs." It's funny. Now it's all day know your numbers. But Bedell has always been a numbers guy. 4 years ago, he's sitting me down and he goes, "Well, what's your numbers? What's your overhead? How much do you have coming in? How much you got going out? What's your debt structure? What's your income?" And when you talk to a coach, if you don't bring good data to them, they can't give you an accurate game plan, right? It's missing information if you're like, well, just this, and this, but really you're like leaving a couple things out. Well, you don't tell your coach or mentor or the person you're, having this confidential conversation with, well, I really got an $8,000 credit card and a $4,000 credit card and a $25,000 this, and that's really another $600 a month in cash flow. But I don't want to be embarrassed, so I'm not going to tell you these things because I don't want the answer I want to get. Right. I want my coach or mentor, my CPA or my bookkeeper to say, yeah, go ahead and do X, Y, Z. Right. So we always stack the cards when we're sitting down with a mentor. No. You got to get naked. You got to get transparent with a mentor, give them the full picture so they can give you the best answer possible. Right. And that was one of those things where, if you sit down with, a loan officer for a mortgage, Liz and I just did that for the land, and we're already sitting down now 9 months early with a loan officer now to look at numbers for the property and the home that we want to build, a new construction home in 2021. We're already having those conversations, and he's going, and he's going to pull all these numbers anyway, whether I tell him or not. Right. So it's always fun. Like, everybody can fake it until you actually sit down with a loan officer, or you sit down with your CPA, or you sit down with a bookkeeper, or you sit down with your wife, right? So we got to be as transparent as possible. So I told Bedell as transparently as possible. I was like, well, here's everything we got going on. Some of it's good, some of it's bad. I'm a work in progress. I'm still a work in progress. I don't have it all figured out. And Bedell goes, well, interesting. That I didn't even plan that in there, Bedell. But Bedell, if you guys ever see Bedell in person, go up to him and go, interesting. Because he's a stoic dude. He's a concrete thinker. He's very relaxed. He's very humble. He's not super this or super that. He's very moderate, kind of a patient kind of a dude. It's a great skill set in business, by the way. I'm not that way. Bedell is like the ready, aim, fire. I'm more like the fire, aim, ready, or whatever the saying is, right? So when we were sitting down, I was telling Bedell all my numbers, some good, some bad. I'm like, hey, I got a little bit of debt, a little bit of this. I wasn't ashamed of it. It was good debt, in my opinion. But I was like, well, I think I can afford the truck. If I do this, this, and this with my residential contracts, my commercial contracts are per push. Excuse me. Great job. Puberty kicking in there at 34. Not bad. I have my snow contracts per push for commercial. My residential contracts were prepay. I told Bedell if I sell like 30 or 40 driveways, I've got this 10, 15, 20 grand. I said, if we get 42 inches of snow, 4 to 5 inches an average snowstorm, we got 8, 9, 10 snow events. I've got this kind of idea for what I want to charge for my snow per push for commercial. This is my hybrid business model, right? Some people are inverted, right? Some people it's commercial is prepay. And your residential is per push. Some people do all per push. Some people do all commercial prepay, all residential prepay. No right or wrong answer, although there are right or wrong ways to approach it to make sure that you're guaranteed having your bills paid or have a baseline so you know that everything's paid for, everything's all set, and you're not freaking out. That's my approach. We talk about that in our snowplow training program, for example. A lot of you guys have been downloading that resource on launchpreneuracademy.com. It's $99. A lot of these conversations that I had with Bedell, some of that data is in there, plus my own information and practical things that I've learned, life lessons the last 3 years doing snow. So it's very, very fresh, very, very relevant, and we update it all the time. So when we're sitting down and I'm telling all this to Bedell, he goes, yeah, I think that your business can afford it, and I think your customers can support that payment, and I think your customers can support that revenue that you're going to do with your per push and your seasonal contracts. They can also afford that plow. What are you thinking for tires? What are you thinking for lights? What are you thinking for this? What are you thinking for that? What are you thinking for insurance? And some of those answers, to be honest, I knew. Probably the other half of the questions that he was asking, I didn't know the answers to. And in fact, that encouraged me to go home, do a bunch of Googling, do a bunch of researching, go find JD with Big Truck, Big RV, go find Stanley Dirt Monkey's old plow videos on YouTube. And I had to go do some more homework. You guys ever ask a question and it ends up, creating about 5 more questions instead of like the actual answer. That's what a good coach or mentor will do. Like you ask a question, they ask you a question back, and now you're like, well, crap. Now I got to start thinking. Yeah, that's welcome to entrepreneurship. You got to think for a living, right? So anyway, it was just a really insightful way to look at it because Bedell said, well, who's going to be paying for the truck? Who's going to be paying for the plow? And it was the first time that I had ever heard anybody propose a statement like that. And then it really got me thinking. Who's going to be paying for my mowers? Who's going to be paying for the truck through, March, April through October? Who's going to be paying for my apartment rent? Who's going to be paying for my new apartment? Who's going to be paying for my land? Who's going to be paying for my new construction home? Who's going to be paying for everything I want to do? Remember, I'm not paying for it, right? My business pays for it. Now I get a paycheck and I go buy Chipotle. But even then, hashtag, lunch, and that's on the business dime, right? But how is the business going to pay for it? I want my business, which is a tool to create a lifestyle for me, in my opinion. I want my business to be an asset, and that asset creates income that buys my liabilities, right? So how am I going to start getting things to pay for things instead of how am I going to pay for things? Because if you think about it, the common answer that we all think about, most of us at least, especially if you grew up blue collar or middle class, it's how do I go work for it, right? That's how you're taught, trade hours for dollars, right? You're taught active income. Your thought is always do more, work more, miss your family more, right? We just did an episode, maybe like 92, 93, 94-ish. It was talking about being a quitter. If you missed that one, you got to go back and listen to it. Classic for sure. Just so much great mindset in there. I had so much great feedback from people saying, I never literally thought about it this way. I need to start maximizing in 9s and 10s and stop being 3s and 4s in so many different things. Because when you're 9 and 10, you can charge top dollar. And we go into that whole conversation in depth. But what Bedell taught me, it really got me thinking about who's going to start paying for my mowers? Who's going to start paying for my employees? Who's going to start paying for all of this stuff? Because my business is designed as a tool to create my lifestyle. And really, if you think about it, what pays for my lifestyle? The customers. My customers are paying for my business. My customers are paying for my profit. My customers are paying for my liabilities. Like if I want to buy a boat, yeah, I'm going to buy the boat, but I need to figure out how to make enough profit from the business. And that basically means how do I make enough profit off of my customers? Right? Like I really you guys ever look at like Google Earth or Google Maps and there's like the pinching tool? You can zoom in, you can zoom out. By the way, that's a one-time show on that sound effect. That's what we're trying to do. When somebody says know your numbers, right? We did a great episode like maybe mid-80s with John Pajak and Michael Bedell. I mean, another great podcast. They talked about for an hour and like 7 minutes what knowing your numbers actually means. And I barely chimed in. I just wanted to listen to these two guys roll. That's what we're trying to talk about. And when we go back to, making profit for your business, that's what we're trying to do. I'm trying to pinch out. I'm trying to get the bigger macro here about why we're trying to know our numbers, why we're trying to create profit, right? Why we need a bigger margin, a bigger spread, a bigger gross profit on the work that we do. The reason is because you want your customers to be paying for things in your life and your business, right? That's why we want to have a business. That's why we want to make profit. Now, I know it sounds so simple, but it was a mindset shift versus me saying, how do I buy something? How do I afford something, right? How do I get something? No. If you do that, you're going to be limited to active income and you're going to have a small world. If you grow businesses, now if you can have a business with one guy and you will have a small income, a smaller world, 100, 200 grand a year maybe, let's say. If you have 10 guys, you're going to make more. If you got 100 guys, arguably you're going to make more. It's just really, really simple. But the reason we want to have those conversations is to figure out who's going to be paying for this, who's going to be buying certain things. Another one is daily income goals, right? Let's keep it really simple, really practical. When Bedell taught me that, I started evaluating everything. How much is it a cost per day? What's it cost per day to live, to buy my truck? What does it cost per day to live in my apartment, my old, halfway house? What does it cost per day to do this? What does it cost per day to do that? What I've kind of realized is that a lot of people live on about $100 a day, 100, maybe $200 a day, right? I mean, some less, some more. But if you think about it, let's say you got a $750 apartment. There's 30 days in a month. That means that your apartment is $25 a day. Right? It costs you 25 days to stay there. If you rent a hotel, it's $150 a night. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to tie in the profit we want to make, who's paying for this, to what is my daily income goal? Because what are my daily expenses? Right? If you think about, let's say you got a car payment, and it's let's say it's $300 a month, and there's 30 days in a month. That's $10 a day for you to have your vehicle. right? So we had the $25 per day for rent. We've got the $10 per day for the truck. Okay, now we're up to $35. Let's say it's, again, same thing, $10 a day for the mower, $10 a day for the trailer, $10 a day, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 5, 2, 5, 2, 10, 7, 7. Your electric bill, $7 a day. Your phone bill, $5 a day, or vice versa, right? So what we do is we come up with this daily income goal that we need to hit based on our daily expenses. And I know like this sounds really weird if you guys think about it, but like this is kind of like something that really set me free. I hope this episode helps you guys out because this is how I started looking at things. I started realizing I need about 80 to 100, 120 bucks a day back in the day to make my life work. And there's a statement out there called daily income goal. And I was like, wow, if I can make 100, 150 bucks net, you know what I mean? Like my paycheck, I can start paying for pretty much my whole day. And it got me thinking too, if I am running my business and every day it's making 250, 500, 750 bucks a day, how many times have you guys heard me say, figure out the lifestyle you want to live, work backwards, figure out how much you need to make in a year, work backwards, figure out how many customers that is, or even more directly, how many customers spend how much revenue with you per year. What does that look like per working day? Right? There's 365 days a year. We get the better part of like 180 working days in the summer, plus or minus, it's like 164. So you get 1,680 working days. I'm sorry, 1,680 working hours. I quote 2,000, but it's about 1,680 working days. So take the 1,680 working hours, divide that by the amount of money you want to make, and what do you come up with? It might be 250 bucks a day. It might be 400 bucks a day. Depends on your lifestyle. It might be 50 bucks a day, right? Or 50 bucks an hour. So that's what I did. I took, what is my daily income goal? How many hours in a year can I work? I think it's 1,680 is what I quote. And I needed to make, it was like 150 bucks an hour or something like that for those 1,680 working hours. And that was going to give me the, whatever, 125, 150, 175, $250,000 a year income that I wanted to make. So again, it really got my brain thinking in a different direction of like, not how much do I need to make, but how much does the business need to make? How much does the business need to make? Made me focus on how much profit I need to make, which made me focus on knowing my numbers, right? Really, really, really simple stuff. This right here is one of those things that Bedell taught me way back when. It was a mindset shift. Bedell he was telling me, and this was something that I've said for years, like, I can't afford that. Instead of saying I can't afford something, figure out how can I afford something, right? Like I can't afford a Tesla. Man, it's $90,000. Right, done right, whatever, right? Cool doors, the Falcon doors, the black rims, white interior. I want one, okay? It's like 86 and like 91 grand plus or minus. Okay, well, what does that car cost me per day? What does that car cost me per hour, per month? When you start having these types of conversations, it really, really, really starts to engage your brain. Your brain starts becoming creative. It starts figuring out how to get it. Now, I don't want to say justify, although we justify. Everybody justifies. But what I will say is it gets your brain in a creative mode, right? When you start looking at your daily income goal and your daily expenses, that's just how I work. I don't, it's hard for me to focus on a year. Maybe you guys are good at that. It just wasn't for me, like straight up. For me, I could break things down monthly. That was extremely helpful. Bookkeepers kept me in line with that lately. Super great. I mean, I love the monthly reports from my payroll and my bookkeeper and my coaching call with my CPA. Weekly is even better because I know what we're doing like week to week. It's like the gyrosphere, the gyroscope. But daily, if I can control this daily, man, I can control my destiny. For example, like if you ever look at Instagram memes and you look up investing, there's a bunch of them that say like $276 a day is $100,000 a year. And you can sell like one thing for $276 a day to one person. That's $100,000 a year or whatever. You can sell, you guys have seen these memes, right? It's, sell a $20 product to 20 people a day, and that's $100,000 a year. There's, sell one $500 a thing every week, and it's $100,000 a year or whatever, right? These are all the things that I kept listening to and kept learning from. And I was thinking, not only my lawn and landscape business, but the YouTube channel. Like, hello, right? I was trying to figure out what's the best way to approach all these different ways of not, I can't afford it, but how can I afford it? What do I need to do? What do I need to focus on? And then it became crystal clear that, hey, we got to make 250, 500, 750 bucks a day, right? With our lawn and landscape company. When I was looking at buying my truck, okay, well, how many clients do I have that is going to support the truck? How many YouTube videos do I need to make that's going to support paying for the truck if I wanted my YouTube channel to pay for the truck, right? It was, I pulled up the meme right here. It says, if you sell $200 product to 5,000 people, that's $1 million. Sell a $500 product to 2,000 people, sell a $1,000 product to 1,000 people. A different way of looking at it. 5,000 people pay $17 a month for 12 months. 250 people pay $333 per month for 12 months. Right? When we start breaking it down, and you can cut that 1,000 different ways, but it changed my brain from I can't afford something to how can I afford something? And I guess if you want to take it to the next level, just to go full circle, is how can I get my customers to pay for something? Right? It doesn't mean pillage. It doesn't mean overcharge. That's not what we're saying at all. Don't go from one ditch to the other, right? But when you start going, man, I can never afford a Tesla. It's 90 grand. Over 72 months, that's, you put a chunk down, but it's $1,100 a month. Okay. Well, $1,100 a month is what? $35 a day. So for $35 a day, you can't come up with that trying to figure out how to take care of buying a Tesla. But you're like, man, I can never afford 90 grand. Yeah, I mean, even unless you make a couple $100,000 a year, that's a steep, price. But who can't figure out how to break it down into a bite-sized little daily piece of $35 per day? I bet you every single one of you, if you really thought about it, if you came up with 20 grand down on that $86,000 Tesla, I bet you there's not a single person listening to this. I don't even care if you're 14 years old that couldn't come up with $35 a day. Do you guys see what I'm saying? So this is something that set me free a while ago because it was kind of like Neo in the Matrix. Everything paused. I was like, oh my God, if I can make this much per day or this much per week or this much per hour or this much margin per job, everything started to make so much more freaking sense. Now, I'm pouring it out there. I'm sweating doing this. I'm in my garage. It's 90 degrees and, there's an echo all over the place, right, Paul? But it really, really set me free. It's just a different way to approach things. I really do pray that it helps you guys maybe break things down into bite-sized little pieces. It really helped me learn from Bedell is who's going to be paying for this, right? That's the thing that we wanted to communicate in this podcast is who's going to be paying for it. It wasn't going to be me, right? Let me see what else we got written down. I wrote down this. If I want a liability, I have to create an asset first. That's like kind of old school, kind of like Robert Kiyosaki, kind of cash flow, Grant Cardone cash flow. But there's a lot of things I want. I've told you guys this. There's a lot of things that you guys want. Let's be real. Well, how are we going to get there? We have to have assets that pay for liabilities. Okay. What does that mean? Well, you can have a lawn and landscape company. You can have 50 vending machines. You can have a tech review channel on YouTube. You can have a network marketing business. You can have a rental property. You can have an oil well that spits off $100 a day, right? In your little dividend. Let's break it down into bite-sized little pieces of who's going to be paying for this. It could be customers. I mean, every business has customers, but it could be your vending machines. It could be your oil well. It can be 500 different things. It could be your landscape company. Duh. So if I want something, this is wealth mentality. This is the other side of the cash flow quadrant. If you want something, so many people, they look at how can I afford it? If you're thinking that, you're 99% chance thinking, how do I trade time for money? How do I sell my time to go buy something? Wealthy people and business owners, they think I take my active income and I buy an asset. That asset creates passive income and the passive income buys the liabilities. Right? I think I talked about this to go full circle on a podcast a while ago. So if I'm repeating myself, forgive me, but a lot of new people listen to the show every day, right? So if I want a Tesla and it's 25 grand down on 90 and I got 72 months and it's $1,100 a month for that payment. Okay, well, that means I have to do something that creates a $35 offset per day. Maybe it's buying maybe it's me selling one training program per day on Entrepreneur Academy. Maybe it's me doing, 15 different cuts on, my lawn care business per day after all expenses, right? Assets create liabilities. Assets create passive income, and passive income pays for liabilities. All right. If I want to get a mortgage, let's say I want to buy a mortgage and it's going to be a chunk. And let's say the mortgage is, I don't know, $1,500 a month. Well, that means I got to come up with $50 a day to pay for that mortgage. How am I going to get there? Don't say you can't afford a $500,000 home for, let's say it's a $1,500 a month mortgage or whatever. Can you afford a $1,500 a month mortgage? I don't know. Can you afford a $500,000 home? I don't know. Can you afford $50 a day? And not you afford it. How are you going to get your customers to pay for it? We got to transmute that through selling a product or service. Of course, we run lawn and landscape companies. Those are service businesses, right? So again, I'm not going to beat a dead horse. I just wanted to be short and sweet here, something that's quick and easy. I will tell you straight up. There's a lot of little things like that Bedell told me, and it caught me off the cuff. It was a compliment. It was a kind thing. Like Bedell wasn't like, dude, what are you, stupid? Maybe. Keith Kalfas, what are you, stupid? I'm stupid. Some of you guys hear Keith Kalfas' voice when I say that. It wasn't anything super, I would say, groundbreaking, although it was transformative for me. But some of you guys might have already heard this stuff before. If so, great. Hopefully it's working out for you. But again, change your mindset from I can't afford this to how can I afford this? And not only how can I afford this, who can I get it to buy it for me? Grant Cardone, who's got my money, right? Uncle G, who's got my money, right? 10X. Great. Same philosophy. So who's going to buy this for me? My company is going to buy this for me. I'm not saying like as a business write-off. I'm just saying I wanted to have an asset that created income. That income bought my liabilities. Preferably if the business can buy the liability and they can use it pre-tax dollars, even better. You know what I'm saying? All business owners, I'm going to buy a new 4-wheeler. Business expense. Just keeping it real. So, all right, guys. Well, that's it. We super appreciate you guys listening to this episode of Fullerton Unfiltered. I know we've got some great announcements here that Marty's going to patch up the rest of the podcast, plug a couple of the holes if I left anything out. Just something I want to keep short and sweet as we wrap up this beautiful week. We finished strong up here in Michigan, and it was a tough week, man. 90 degrees and rain, and it's been a tough one. But for all of you guys listening to him, thank you so much for listening to this episode of Fullerton Unfiltered podcast. We'll kick it over to Marty to do all the rest of the announcements. Listen to what he's got to say. It's always great stuff, and always appreciate him chiming in. All right, guys, that's it. Over and out. You guys have a great rest of the day. We'll catch you on the next one.
This industry's largest peer-to-peer led training event is just around the corner. And if you guys are ready to bump it up a notch and lay the foundation for an incredibly successful 2021, then L'Entrepreneur Academy Live 2020 is an absolute must-attend event. L'Entrepreneur Academy Live. The fun takes place November 7th in Novi, Michigan at the Suburban Collection Showplace. This year, we have 6 amazing speakers, including Nick Carlson, Caleb and Brittany Allman, Corey Ballard, Jeff Joyner, Keith Kalfas, and Stanley Genetic. This all-day-long exclusive conference focuses on safety training, sales training, and features live panels and demos as well. You definitely don't want to miss out. Refocus, regroup, and re-engage with us this fall at L'Entrepreneur Academy Live 2020. We're so excited to host you guys in Novi, Michigan and help propel your business to the next level. Hotels and event registration information can all be found at L'EntrepreneurAcademy.com and in today's show notes. And follow along as the excitement builds with the Instagram hashtag LAL2020. See you November 7th. My friends, it is definitely going to be a who's who of the industry at L'Entrepreneur Live 2020. A couple of things about the November 7th event. Should it get canceled because of the plague, well, your ticket will be refunded at 100%. We're also recommending you purchase the flight travel insurance. L'EntrepreneurAcademy.com to get registered. And I forgot to tell you a little bit earlier that those one-on-one coaching calls, they're only $99. Now, I've been listening to Brian for quite some time, and that's, in my opinion, just underpriced considering the value of his time and all of the actionable advice you're going to come away with. If, and it's a big if he listens to me, he's going to raise his rates. So if you've been thinking, man, I just wish I could ask Fullerton about this, you can. So sign up now at L'EntrepreneurAcademy.com and come back for our next show on Monday.
Thanks for taking the time to listen to the Fullerton Unfiltered podcast with Brian Fullerton. We hope you enjoyed this production. If so, please consider leaving us a 5-star review for the show. While the techniques and ideas presented here are designed to help you grow a more successful and profitable business, no one can guarantee these results for you. We want to emphasize that entrepreneurship is not easy, and the ideas presented here are just the opinions of Brian Fullerton and his respective guests. No one can guarantee success for you. That being said, we hope the ideas presented here help you and motivate you to go on out there and crush it with your own business.
Fullerton Unfiltered Podcast.
Thanks for listening, and we hope to see you on the next episode.